This past year, one of my son's junior high school classes went on an after-school field trip. It was on the anniversary of one of the USA's worst man-made disasters. Any one of the history class's students were invited to join in on going up to the St. Francis Dam to recall a minute-by-minute leading up to the dam breaking. So I've always been interested in what really happened when the dam broke. At 10:30 p.m., March 26, 2000, everyone met in the parking lot of the school. We all drove our own cars. I know there are a lot of spirits in the canyon in which the dam was built, and I knew I would see one that night. We had to hike in the dark up the side of what was once the St. Francis Dam. The dam was built in 1928 by Mullenland. It held 2.5 billion gallons of water when filled, and it had just been filled to the top 2 months earlier before it broke. The day it broke, it had been checked out by Mullenland himself and another engineer, and given the big OK, nothing wrong here sign, even though there was a good-sized crack in the dam wall. The dam broke at 11:58 p.m., when everyone in the Santa Clarita Valley was sleeping. Remember, everyone used to go to bed at 8 o'clock p.m., no TVs to watch to keep people up at night. When the dam broke, it was guessed the wall of water was over 170 feet high. Back to our field trip. So we all made it to the top of what was the dam, and my son's teacher is giving a minute-by-minute of what happened before the dam broke. My son was sitting in front of the teacher, and I was sitting about 25 feet away from them. As the time came closer and closer, I kept seeing this shadow trying to get up the side of the mountain, the side in which the water was stored. Just as the teacher said the dam has now broke, the shadow tried harder and harder to get to the top, but the rocks where he was trying to get his footing kept on slipping away faster and faster, and then he was gone. I didn't say anything to anyone. As we were driving home, I asked my son what he thought of the field trip. He told me it was interesting, and I interrupted him and said, "Except for the guy trying to get up the side of the hill?" He said, "Yeah, you saw him too?" "You bet I did." There were about 450 to 475 people killed that night. Only 3 people who lived in that canyon survived. A woman and her baby because her husband pushed her out a window that faced a hillside, and a man that does not know why he was saved. His house was washed under but came back up with him on the roof. The water rushed all the way to the Pacific Ocean, killing all the while. Edison had workers set up in a campground around 20 miles away but along the water's path. Only the men that had their tents zipped up lived. Their tents floated to the top of what was still a 50-foot wall of water. If anyone would like to see pictures of before the dam broke and after the dam broke, go to History of Santa Clarita Valley website and they have plenty of pictures to show you. It will also give you an accounting of the dam breaking. This is Charlie and I live in Chicago. I've sent some of my cousin's experiences to your website before and I keep coming here. Now I have had an experience that I wish to share with you. I was at my Aunt Jackie's friend's condo, babysitting a St. Bernard puppy named Kara. The condo itself is on Michigan Avenue in the South Loop of Chicago. The condo unit I stayed in that night faces east towards the lake, as well as Grant Park. My aunt has a friend in the building named Mike who owns Kara. I've been babysitting her from time to time, ever since last November, but this is the first time anything weird has ever happened. It happened Saturday night, August 18th, around 10 o'clock p.m. Kara was in her little room sleeping on the floor. Her room faces the east. I was in the washroom washing my face when I heard her spring up from the floor and dash out of her room. She was going all around looking for me, and I came out of the bathroom to see her about to go into another bedroom. She saw me right away and brushed up against me like she was scared. It wasn't like her to be scared because she's a giant dog. She looked up at me with sad eyes and then turned to her room as if to say, "Something is in there." Now I was scared, so I grabbed an umbrella off the coat rack and slowly walked towards her room while she followed right behind me. I entered the room and found absolutely nothing. Then I started to think what could have freaked Kara out so much. Could a spirit have been in her room, or could there have been something from the outside that came up to her window and got her attention? I decided to take her out for a late walk, and when I ventured outside, I looked up to her window, but nothing was there. When we got back to the unit, she did not go to her room, which she always does when she gets back from her walk. Instead, she went to her master's empty room, which was very dark, where she laid on the floor. I decided to go into her room again, and she followed me in. When I got out, so did she. That night, I slept on a chair in the front room, where I was able to see the whole room so that nothing would come up behind me. As for Kara, she slept on the couch the whole night, which she never does. Every night she sleeps on the floor in her room, where it's nice and cool for her. When the sun came up, I was very relieved and happy because whatever was there that night was gone now.
Well, this story actually happened to my younger brother a few years ago. I'm from New Zealand, from a town or suburb called Torbay, which is on the North Shore, which is basically North Auckland. This story I'm inclined to believe is true, as it just wasn't him that witnessed it, but a few of his friends as well, and they all claim they saw the same thing. I can't remember the exact date it happened, but it was during summer. It was a hot, humid night, and my brother and friends were bored, so they went outside to play hacky sack. One of my brother's friends lives on a dead-end street, so they decided to play in the middle of the dead end, as it was just past midnight and there were no cars around. Anyways, they were having a great game, when they suddenly heard a roar of a motorcycle and felt a cold chill. They all stopped playing and looked to the top of the street. The sound of the motorcycle became louder, and suddenly, coming down the street at a fairly slow speed, came a huge-ass black Harley. The biker was wearing full black leathers and a black helmet, and they couldn't make out his face. As the bike slowly came down the hill, going about 5 to 10 kilometers an hour, each streetlight he passed fluttered, then died out completely. My brother and friends were scared stiff and couldn't move. Each streetlight blinked out as the biker came down the street towards them. Then it circled around them in complete darkness, and slowly went back up the streets. As he passed each streetlight, it would suddenly splutter back into life, each light blinking on again as the biker passed it. Then as he disappeared, my brother and his friends were left there freaking out at what they had just seen. Naturally, they all made a beeline for my brother's friend's house, and I don't think any of them got much sleep that night. So as far as I know, it is a true story told to me by my brother, and backed up by his friends, who I've known for ages, and it's not something they will lie about. Pretty spooky. Hey, maybe Death has decided to come up with the times and has himself a Harley now. I attended the same university for my bachelor's and my PhD. There was a lovely woman by the name of Jennifer, who was my reading and the content area instructor. The guys all swooned over her. She was gorgeous, and I loved her because she read us The Giver out loud. She was an awesome instructor and was doing her PhD in literacy. Fast forward a few years, and Jen has moved to South Carolina to teach literacy. I'm now in my PhD program, and in the same grad student office that she used to work in, with other literacy people that were her colleagues. And then, we got the news that she was murdered by her boyfriend. Everyone is totally devastated. It was a huge blow to the department, as she was genuinely loved by everyone who knew her. So a few days later, after her funeral, her body was brought home. I'm in the office suite at school very early in the morning, when nobody else was around. The grad students had a fishbowl office, 10 of us, with group desks, within a larger office suite that was looked and had light motion sensors. I'm walking in, and past a locked door with windows, and I see a woman with short, dark hair walk the other way inside, which was weird, because the lights didn't flicker on when she moved. So I walked around the corner to the door with a key and let myself in. I walk inside and head to where I saw her. The lights flicker on when they sense me. Nobody is there. It's just me, an entire suite of empty offices. I swear to God it was her, saying goodbye to a place she spent so many years from, and where she had so many friends. It spooked the hell out of me, but made me sad too. This story takes place years ago, in a town north of Chicago called Gray Lake. The only thing Gray Lake is really known for is the hard rock band Chevelle, hailed from there. It also has tons of new homes, tons of those subdivisions that I call Lego houses. They all look the same, and seem to go up overnight. Well, during that time, Great Lake wasn't like that. It was a small retirement community with a small school, a few small businesses, and a park. There was no bus service within the town, so students had to either get rides or walk to school. The vast majority walked. I didn't grow up in Great Lake, but I did transfer there during my sophomore year of high school. Unlike other schools I had been to, I made a lot of friends in Great Lake. I joined a drama club and was immediately cast in my first play ever. It was fun, but it mainly gave me some time after school to hang out and talk with my new friends. Often, we would sit around, talking way past sunset, and then have to walk home in the dark. On October 15th, it actually got very dark early. A female friend and I were the last two people to leave after rehearsal, and it was after 9 o'clock. Although I was only 5'7" and a whopping 135 pounds, I had a lot of bravado and offered to walk her home because she didn't feel safe walking home alone. She asked me if I would be scared walking her afterwards, and I basically told her not to worry about me. I don't get scared easily. Well, I really had never been to her home before and hadn't been aware she lived on the other side of the park. I walked her through the park to her home, said goodbye to her at her driveway, and after she thanked me for walking her home, began my own walk to my home. It was pretty cold outside, so I shoved my hands in my jacket pockets as I walked down the street. I found the gateway into the park and entered it onto the paved bike path. It was very uncomfortable because I was the only person in the park. It was very dark, and there was very little lighting there. I figured that must have been because most people did not walk in the park in the pitch black night. I got on the path, not completely at the beginning of it. I kept looking around, trying to convince myself I wasn't scared, but cautious. At one point, looking behind me, I saw a man who looked like he was in his mid-20s walking on the path in the distance. I didn't see much about him, but he was wearing a red polo shirt. I had no reason to think the man was up to anything, but I did feel my heart start to beat a bit faster. I figured it was best to just keep my pace though. If he was up to no good, running seemed like the worst possible option. As I walked along, I tried not to keep peeking behind me, but it was impossible not to. I noticed that although it didn't seem like he had sped up at all, the man had gained on me. I didn't get a good look at him and decided to simply speed up. As I walked faster, I glanced back and I noticed that he was walking faster too. My heart began to race and I finally began to get scared for the first time. A quick peek revealed he had gained on me more. I saw the exit to the park getting closer and closer, and I went ahead and sped up, speed walking at this point. I quit looking back, and with my heart racing, I got to the arched gateway that led out of the park. Although I tried not to look behind me, my right eye caught something in my peripheral vision coming at me from behind in an incredible speed. I felt a jolt of electricity course through my body as I realized that the man was running at me, and I wasn't going to be able to get away. However, with my heart pounding in my ears, I saw a young boy on his bicycle pass me on my right, and he kept riding away. Once my nerves calmed down, I remember the man following me in the park. Turning around, I saw no one on the path. I have no idea where he went or why he went away. I just went home. During that time, on the far side of town, a Shell station had recently been built. Not long after it opened, a story about something that happened there circulated around town. I had no idea if it was true. I still have no idea if it's true. I suppose I could look it up online, but I really do not want to know. At school on Monday, I came across my female friend. She told me that after I dropped her off, her mom had wanted to come outside and give me a ride home. I told her I appreciated it, but it wasn't necessary. She then told me that her mom had been worried because apparently there had been a rape and attempted murder at the local Shell station. What I was told is that earlier in the day, a woman bought some gas, the way it was before, you pay at the pump, and paid for a car wash. Once she was going through the car wash, the clerk manually shut the car wash down, locking her in. He then got into the car wash, brutally stabbed and raped the woman, and locked her in the trunk, leaving her dead and planning on dumping the body after work. He put an out of order sign on the car wash. However, she wasn't dead. She kicked out the backseat of the car, got out of the car wash, and went for help. The man noticed she was gone and fled the station. He wasn't caught until the following day. I have no idea what happened that night. I'm a guy, and I doubt that a man had raped a girl would try to rape me. However, he did try to kill her, and if he was scared, he would be caught. He may have tried to do something to me. I didn't know. What I do know is that I've since been into different Shell stations, and the polo shirt that man was wearing was identical to the ones the employee were wearing.
Well, I have two different stories that happened to me that were not normal, and something my wife witnessed while I was asleep. The first was back in 1992, when I was 16 years old. I had recently met this girl that was very religious and wanted me to come to a service at her church. I had a crush on this girl, and so I told her I would go. Well, a couple nights before I went, I was having this horrible dream. I was in a place that looked like a junkyard, being chased by some sort of animal that was all black. Whatever it was, I was definitely scared of it. I kept running until I saw something that looked like a little room with a little light in it. But it was extremely small. So small I had to crawl through it. By the time I got in, the creature was right at the opening, but just too big to get in. Its paws were black and huge. It would growl and snarl, trying its best to get to me. Now, here's the weird part. At that time, as I'm having this nightmare, I'm looking at my ceiling. I'm all stiff, and I can't move. I've never experienced this before. I'm trying to call my mother, but I'm struggling to talk. It's like I can't speak at all. While this is happening, the nightmare that I'm having is still going on in my head. Finally, it's over, and I'm fully awake. To be awake and dreaming was something that I will never forget, as it still sends chills all through me. Few months later, all my friends are talking about shadows in rooms and other strange stories, so of course I told them what happened in my dream. They kind of looked spooked and said the devil was trying to stop you, so you wouldn't become a Christian. Right now I am not a Christian, but I never had that experience happen again. The next story happens a few years after that experience. One night, me and my cousins are hanging and end up stopping at a convenience store. We all end up going in. Well, when we come out, the car is still running and the doors are locked. Of course, my bright cousin does not have a spare key. Lucky he only lives close by to this store, so since I'm skinny and small, I'm the fastest. I volunteer to go to his house to get the spare key. So I'm off, and make it there in 10 minutes. Takes me a while to explain to my aunt what's going on. She helps me find the key, and I'm off. Well, now I'm getting tired of running, and I start to jog. Then, all of a sudden, at the corner of my eye, a dark figure is running at me from across the street. I jump back in surprise to see what's coming at me. Nothing's there. I could swear something was coming at me, but it suddenly disappeared. It could not have been my imagination. It seemed too real to be imaginary. After I realized that nothing was there, I ran as fast as I could back to the store. After I tell them what happened, they all laughed at me. So I shook it off and laughed about it too. But I feel that's as close as to something not normal that I'll ever be involved in. But my wife's story is strange in a way. One night while watching TV in the living room, she notices out of nowhere a balloon that she received on Mother's Day is floating around from the hallway. it for some reason goes directly to her. She's kinda spooked about it and pushes it away. So she continues to watch TV and of course I'm sound asleep on the couch. Once again here comes that balloon straight to her. Okay, now she's petrified and tries to wake me up, but I'm totally knocked out. The only thing she could think of was to pop the balloon with her cigarette. The next morning she tells me of the story and that she tried to wake me up. I recall her saying something to me, but I couldn't wake up. The next night we are going to bed, I hear one of my daughter's toys making noise. It's one of those toy phones that rings. I went by it to see if the battery is dying, but the toy is fine. Ever since then I haven't heard it go off by itself. But once in a while, I get goosebumps over my body and feel something else is just not right. Just hope it's my imagination.
The following is a compiled list of the many rumors that concern the old high school from my friend's town. My friend spent his childhood in upstate Maine. The high school he went to was known for being haunted. The story began when a senior wrote a play for the drama club. The boy directed and starred in the play. This put him under a lot of stress. The night before the play opened, the boy showed up and demanded that the janitor let him into the auditorium. Since he was an honor student, the janitor told him that he could use the auditorium for 2 hours, which was just enough time to go through the whole play. After 2 hours, the janitor returned and found the stage lights on, but the boy wasn't there. No one ever saw the boy again. Regardless, the play went on and was acclaimed by the newspapers as greatly written. Ever since that day, the school was plagued with unexplainable occurrences. Entire rows of lockers would be found open wide on some mornings. Lights would be seen on at odd times of the night. The parking lot gate would close in the middle of the day. Books in the library would be mixed up and trays from the cafeteria were found stacked on top of the tables. Sightings would occur on the night of rehearsals and plays. People would swear they saw a young man staring out the classroom windows or walking across the darkened gym. Several years ago, the school was found to be too old and was demolished so that a new school could be built. That's when my friend moved away. From what his friends told him, there were no further occurrences. I'm not sure if the stories are true, but my friend is very credible.
Hey everybody, it's Vacation Man, and he's here to give you another story filled with amazingness and awesomeness all throughout the world. I'm just kidding, guys. Obviously, I've got people here who are helping me out in this video, but honestly, I have no idea what I'm saying. I had to edit that slightly out because I sounded like complete gibberish. Not that I normally don't sound like complete gibberish, but I do anyway. Anyway, guys, seriously, the whole point of this video is to let you guys have something while I'm away on vacation. So basically, I did 2 stories that I did collaborations with people on other channels. So I took that story idea and I shoved it up my butt. And no, but seriously, guys, I totally just, took them from those channels and put them onto this channel. And then I combined some news stories and I let other people, have a voice for once and actually, take the stage and actually narrate. So those stories were new that I asked those people to do. And my stories may or may not have been heard before. So you guys can make that call. And if I know how to talk any better than I can, I wowould be better off as a human being. Yeah. Seriously, guys, as much as I love myself at times and hate myself even more at times, I can't help but to cringe at, the whole idea of me speaking. And I can't even talk. I'm gibberish. I'm, whatever. I can't even see, you know what I mean? I'm not even coherent. Anyway, guys, sorry. I'm keeping this way too longer than I should. I know you guys like that outro, so I guess that's great. But seriously, guys, comment, like, share, and subscribe. I don't know when I'm going to be able to respond. Hopefully, as soon as I see the comments you guys send. Otherwise, I'm going to try my best to get to them at some point. But I'm just living vacation life and I'm just enjoying myself. So please, guys, don't be a stranger. Let me know what you think of these stories, and I'll see you next week. Hopefully, when I'm back home and back to doing what I love to do again. But I'll talk to you again, guys, and I'll stop, slurring my words eventually. No, I'm not. I'm never going to be able to do that. Anyway, guys, good night, good morning, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you.